Welcome in everybody to another weekly edition of the Bully the Board Meeting College Edition. As always, Kevin, Seth, and Steve with you. We got another big week to break down for power ratings, matchup maps, model breakdowns, all of it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get the show going.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
Welcome in, everybody. Again, it's Bully the Board. As always, please, if you are here and you haven't already, give this video a like, give our page a subscribe, please. Hit that subscribe button. We do these board meetings every single week, both for college and NFL. We break down different efficiency statistics, give you guys insight, give you guys value on everything, everything football related. So would really appreciate if you guys could do that for us. It helps out our page tremendously. So, boys, we have 8 weeks in the books for college, so it's flying by. We're again more than halfway through the season officially already, so a lot has been going on. Let's not waste any more time. Steve, want to start with you. There were some interesting developments or interesting outcomes from this past weekend. So looking at our updated matchup maps here heading into week 9, give me what stands out first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just more of the same in terms of we've been talking about this all year. There really hasn't been a dominant team that you felt was untouchable this year. Now, Michigan was safe. Ohio State had a pretty tight game against Penn State, but that game was not as close as the scoreboard indicated. But you look at Texas, almost lost. Oklahoma, almost lost. UNC did lose, and we were just trying to give them credit about maybe they could win the ACC. And so, I mean, this year is just the year of anarchy, and I am all here for it.
Seth, what about you, man? Yeah, I mean, North Carolina again. Yeah, that was probably in my opinion, at least, the biggest disappointment coming out of this weekend. But yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it. You talked about on TikTok briefly. Like, do we have a new number one overall heading into week 9 in the college football landscape?
Who is it?
It's not Georgia. Well, Georgia has it been Michigan for more? Has it been Michigan for a couple weeks now? Am I just asleep at the wheel?
Oh, you mean like AP number 1?
Well, no.
Georgia's been making. I mean, they started in top 4, so I don't know that it's crazy leap here. But yeah, I mean, they're beating up teams. I mean, obviously, this cheating scandal is quite interesting. We've been talking about it as an angle. Like, if they get suspended for not being able to go to the playoff, right now they're 28. The market has them priced as a 28% favorite to win. If they are suspended, the books have to account for 28% probability. They have to spread that out amongst all the teams. So, in my opinion, if you bet, let's say the top 6-7 teams, like, you're gonna just see immediate CLV because your team is just going to get bumped up in probability just because of that. So I think that's interesting. Ohio State, like, I guess let's just break down the Big Ten. Like, Ohio State is secretly or quietly making their case. Like, they win. It's a hard fought game, but they win. They beat Notre Dame. Then they go to Penn State, who's looked at as supposed to be a really good team. You can see where they're at on the power rating. They are a good team. They beat them. Like, if Ohio State beats Michigan, and quite frankly, even if they don't, do they have the strongest resume up to this point?
Yeah, I'll make that argument.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. Maybe to your point, Michigan. Like, yeah, it's hard to beat Power 5 schools. Big Ten, whatever conference you're in, right? So that it has been impressive, but until they play Penn State, is it next week or week after that? I'm not sure. They will not. I mean, yeah, their quality of opponents is not, I think, anywhere near what Ohio State's has been. So, I'm with you there to that in that respect. Like, is their resume the most impressive? Yeah, I think there's a lot of validity to that. And but on the flip side, Penn State losing that game, we talked a little bit about, and this has been a common theme with them, like how dominant their defense has been. They made that offense basically look mediocre or median, right? It was. So I don't think as a Penn State fan you should completely think you're down and outer with it. Like, Penn State's not dead yet, but it was very as good as their defense looked, their offense was incredibly inept. So credit to Ohio State on that front.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. But I think the reality, I don't know, maybe you disagree. I don't think Penn State showed me they'll be able to beat Michigan, and so I think that's where their second loss comes.
Yeah.
And as these are trending, Michigan, Ohio State, it looks like they'll just have one loss. Whoever loses to the other. I guess potentially that, right, whoever wins that then goes to the Big Ten championship and then has to play Iowa maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like we've like all season Ohio State's like slow but steady, but they're like not beating up, but they're beating teams that are really good, right? Which I don't know who else is kind of doing that. Maybe Alabama.
Yeah. Well, and just real quick, so probably not. I mean, we were just talking about Iowa, and could they do the Big Ten championship route? But I think it's Wisconsin's now to lose, so we'll see how they do. Neither of those teams are really impressive to me. But to your point, Kev, I think Penn State's chances are dead. I mean, to Steph's point, they're gonna have. You have the top three having, or you have Georgia, or excuse me, Ohio State and Michigan. Maybe one loses to the other, and one will lose to the other, and that's about it. So I think either one of them are going to get the nod over Penn State going to the Big Ten championship game, and I can't see Penn State leapfrogging any one of those teams.
Yeah.
So, I think they're kind of dead in the water. But except to your point, Bama, can we? Is this a safe space?
Yeah.
Can I vent? Because this one was so painful, right? So. I was at this game, went with some buddies to the sports book, and one of them is a monumental jinx. I mean, ultimate fade god. And me, I'm like, whatever, man. My bets are already locked in. A broken clock strike twice a day. You can't always lose. And so we're on Tennessee plus 9.5, and first half coasting. Alabama offense looked absolutely lost. And then again, they're going to win this game outright. And so I bet them outright. And my buddy bet Tennessee money line second half. He's like, oh yeah, no, they're not going to score any more points. Tennessee's going to beat them by like 30. Tennessee didn't score another point.
Yeah, damn.
Tennessee didn't score another point, and the Bama offense looked unreal. And is this the true Alabama offense? Because if it is, and Tennessee's not a great team, but they are firmly in that quadrant of elite.
Yeah.
Say what you want to say about them all year long. If this is what Bama's truly capable of, holy shit, we may need to be on alert.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was talking about this the other day. Like, I got this. Like, I'm just another guy doubting Alabama, and I'm wrong. Like, I think that's as simple as it is. Like, Nick Saban just knows how to win, and they just didn't quit, and they're just beating SEC school after SEC school. And look what's left: a mediocre, like an elite LSU offense, but a horrible LSU defense, or at least we'll talk about a little bit about that. But like, in SEC standards, pretty bad defense. And then Georgia without Bowers is a question mark. But even if they are good, at least LSU will get to the SEC championship game.
Right. Oh, you mean Bama gets this?
Sorry, Bama gets to the SEC championship game. Like, so for me, it's just like, I like this is. I guess we're probably 1 week too late to buy Bama tickets.
Yeah,
but we've talked about it before. I mean, that Auburn game I think will always be tough. They have to play LSU, and LSU's offense is good. Can Alabama actually go into a shootout and come out on top? I mean, if they can, though, like, that's scary. Like, that actually means that they could win the national championship.
Yeah, agreed.
In the Big 12, similar. I mean, injury news similar with Texas. Obviously, Quinn Ewers going down and out with the AC joint. I don't know how. I haven't heard if he's going to be out X amount of weeks yet or not. But that's obviously a huge issue for them. They have, I don't say a cakewalk the rest of the way, but no other ranked teams at least the rest of the way. So Oklahoma, we tease it right at the start, like they struggled with UCF. I mean, I don't know if you guys got to watch that game specifically, but UCF was basically, it was like the varsity versus JV team in the first half. I mean, it was brutal. So that was the first time really we saw, at least I saw, some real chinks in the armor in Oklahoma.
Couple different angles, though, I didn't know about that game until kickoff. UCF was getting their quarterback back that they hadn't had for like 3 or 4 weeks. And then also, I didn't understand that Oklahoma's quarterback, he transferred out of that school. So, like, they're very familiar with him. Now, they still have to go and play, but, like, did they scheme up something or know where his like weak spots are? I don't know. And then I think the addition of the quarterback play was an upgrade. We saw late money come in and move this after middle of the week money move this further. It moved that number down lower. So, they were incorporating that stuff a little bit better than we were. But I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk about it. Kansas, Oklahoma. I mean, this is going to be a good game, a good test for Oklahoma. Like if they can, do their thing against Kansas, I think that's pretty good. But yeah, I think the Ewers news is a pretty big deal. Like he's not starting this week. I know that for a fact. And if he's not going to start for the rest of the season, like that's a big deal. That Texas team is not, they almost lost to Houston without him.
Right. And I think for me, because we did this exercise last week, right? South looking at Texas and Oklahoma's schedule and saying, hey, at this point in time, because Oklahoma beat Texas, they are in the driver's seat as long as they don't lose another game. And I didn't really see that happen. They came damn close to UCF. And I think for me, to your point, the issue was the defense. I mean, this looked like the Oklahoma defense of years past where, you can, they were a sheet of paper out there. There was nothing stopping opposing offenses from throwing the ball up and down the field. Oklahoma ended up winning this game, but if that's what you're putting out on the field and you're going against a damn good Kansas offense that could potentially light up a scoreboard, I'm very concerned if I'm Boomer Sooner, So
Well,
to your point though,
5,000 ticket.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That
would help a brother out.
The Pac-12 avoided. Maybe not narrowly, but there was some sweats, there were some scares. They avoided cannibalizing themselves in a very bad way this past weekend. Oregon comes out with the win there against Washington State, but Washington absolutely struggling at home against ASU. Probably another one of the surprises of the week, in my opinion. I'm not sure if you uncovered any angles on that one, Seth, but they needed I don't want to say fluke, but a high variance type of play and a pick six in order to secure that win. So that was kind of unfortunate to see. I mean, should we any reason to be concerned with Washington?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, and I think you hit a head on the nail, like avoiding the cannibalism that we always see in the Pac-12, and it's really right now. I guess we saw Washington avoid it, but we didn't see SC avoid it. They fell for the trap, so to speak. I don't know. I mean, I think some of this is like, there's always going to be the week that you don't coast. And this is where the great teams have to kind of barely win a game and kind of pull away. We've seen it year in and year out. Like, I mean, think about Georgia as a championship team last year. They almost lost to Mizzou. I mean, this happens in conference play. Like sometimes they just got your number. They see you so often. They know how to prepare. I just hope that we don't see much more stumbling from Washington or Oregon, because I want to see a Pac-12 championship that means a playoff berth. And I think both those teams need to go undefeated in order to make that happen. And I guess technically, it's more so for Oregon. Washington, I guess, can afford one more loss, but then it becomes, does a 2-loss Pac-12 team potentially get in, or a 1-loss team get in? And that could be tricky. But I don't know. I mean, Arizona looks a lot better than I think a lot of people forecasted. We were high on them. We have their over. That ticket looks, I don't want to say cash, but it looks comfortable to have. But even a team like ASU, they are a competitive team, and they've just been banned from bowl games this year. So I think they're just kind of fighting for pride. So every kind of game is their bowl game. But I don't know. It was interesting to see SC lose to Utah. I didn't think that was the game they would stumble with. Like, Utah's offense has struggled up until that point. So I was really, really taken aback on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the writing on the wall. I mean, we sat here and we talked all day, all week, all month about SC's fall is coming because the defense is not nearly as good as people think. They're being bailed out by their offense against subpar talent. And what do we see when they coasted? We went in there and they got absolutely smoked. And then they came to Utah, or Utah came to them, and the same exact thing happened. We said on this show, we don't think Utah's going to win because they don't have the offense to exploit SC's poor defense. Yeah. Well, they sure as shit did, right? Yeah. And so if Utah is doing that to SC's defense, the writing's on the wall. That's game over. And I think, Kev, for me, I don't want to make excuses and whatnot, but I do have a little bit of grace with Washington. I mean, they just came off that thriller of a game against Oregon. Now, you still got to show up, right? There's no excuse. No look ahead games, no emotional letdowns, whatever. I get it. You got to come in every week and prepare, but they won a hell of a game, and great teams still win. Now, great teams covered, depending on who you ask. I agree with you there, but they still found a way to win when it mattered. And I think that to me shows resiliency. And I'm with you, Seth. I really hope both these teams, Washington and Oregon, go undefeated the rest of the way, because I want Pac-12 football in the playoff for one last time. Because it's now or never. It's now or never.
Yeah, really. I guess does a scorned USC fuck it all up? Like, because now they're not playing for the playoffs, so like the best thing they can do is derail Oregon or Washington or both. They can try.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, a USC offense on the right night can do that. Like, this is not a bad team by any means. It's just their defense is what has been their Achilles heel from being like a playoff team. So it's the classic Pac-12. Like, we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, if they all just eat each other alive, will we be surprised? Probably not.
Yeah. All right, and then it's got to be it's officially a one-team race in the ACC now. Maybe it has been for a couple of weeks now, but FSU's top dog, right? North Carolina mentioned it losing outright to Virginia, major disappointment, and then FSU kind of handling Duke somewhat expectedly, given Duke's injuries, injury issues going into that game. So any surprises? I mean, not for me out of the ACC. I mean, again, this is FSU's to roll with at this point.
No, I think FSU looks good, but I do think that they Miami losing that meaningless game for no reason really is going to be a big deal, because like I do think they can give Florida State a rough time and beat them. I really do believe that. Now I know their quarterback is down and that changes things, but this is a really talented Miami team. And then I still don't think discredit like playing Florida in the SEC with that much talent. Like, Florida State isn't out of the clear yet. That being said, if they only lose one of those games, or even if they lose one of those games, I should say, like they're still going to go to the ACC championship game at this point. So I agree. Like it's got to be theirs. Now the question becomes, can they get out with either no losses or one loss? And I think that's going to be important for them to be able to make the playoff, especially if they get out with no loss. If they can do this with no loss, they're going to the playoff. Like there's just no ifs, ands, or buts. They have. If it's not Ohio State, they have the best resume. It's one of those two teams. They've just beaten so many good, talented teams.
Yeah, no, and if I could play, I mean, I agree with everything you just said, Seth. I really don't have much to add to that, so I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
If Florida can lose, if Florida loses, right, to a Miami team, right, they trip up and fall somewhere else, can Louisville still sneak in? They're mathematically right there.
With one loss,
right? Yeah. Well, and really more so to sneak in to the ACC championship, win that game, and see what happens there. Now they're not. Yeah, now to your point, they're not nearly as sexy a team for a playoff berth as FSU is, right? But from the ACC standpoint, I don't think Florida State by any means can start cruising just yet, because there's still too much heat in the tail.
No, I agree. They're not cruising, but I just probabilistic. I think they're going to make the SEC championship. But you make a good point. Like, Louisville is there, like they are right in the hunt, and if it's one loss still, they're definitely going to go to the ACC championship, and then anything can happen, and that would be pretty gnarly. One loss Louisville make the playoff. Like we have some pretty interesting like potential things that could happen here, like from the playoff that would be gnarly to see. But even if we saw Louisville or Florida State, like I'd be psyched to finally see an ACC champion, ACC team, not Clemson. And what do we see? Clemson again make poor decisions with the ball in crucial spots. They're a talented team, though. I guess I won't stop beating that drum. Like I think that win by Miami is actually still really meaningful to beat Clemson, even though they're kind of losing more games than we would forecast. Like this is still a really, really good Clemson team. They're just making really poor decisions in like the worst parts of the field in the red zone, basically.
Yeah.
All right, 8 weeks in the books. Yeah, I mean we'll deeper into conference play here.
Before we move on, though, I want your guys' top four teams. Who's making the playoff?
Oh, assuming they don't get suspended. Okay, Michigan.
All right.
Which I long shot. I'm just kind of saying that in jest. Michigan. I think it's going to be Georgia still.
Okay.
Ohio State and Washington.
So two Big Ten teams. That's interesting. Okay, I like it. But you've thrown in a Pac-12 team. Steve, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Michigan.
Okay.
Washington.
All right.
Georgia. And see, this is where it gets tough, right? Yeah, I'm gonna have to say by name value only. No, I'd say that Michigan. Sorry, Michigan, Washington, Georgia, FSU. That's my 4.
Okay, I like it. I
with,
like
with
it.
the, with the caveat that I could easily see Bama getting in on name brand value somehow, because somehow that's how it always works out. I don't know how, but it always does.
All right, well, you hear it here first. Somehow is they beat Georgia in the SEC championship. Bama's getting in 1, Michigan 2, Florida State, I think goes undefeated, and I'm going Oregon.
Ooh,
I'm going Oregon. I think Oregon beats Washington in the Pac-12 championship. They make it out unscathed in the Pac-12, and that's more than. And then Oklahoma loses to Texas. So Texas, Oklahoma all have 1 loss. Oregon has 1 loss, but their resume is just slightly better.
I was just going to say none of us had our darling Oklahoma in here.
I know,
but that makes okay. But you haven't gone out to
recency
Texas.
bias, probably. Yeah,
I want Oklahoma to go, but they've been before. Like I could just if you're talking brand name, I think the brandest name slash shit you could see happen is that they put a Pac-12 team in just because they never made it. Like they feel obligated, we got to do it. But I also do believe this year the Pac-12, dare I say, is the most competitive conference. Yes, SEC is good. Yes, Big 12 is good. Yes, Big 10 is good. But top down athletes, best quarterbacks, best offenses, it's kind of coming out of the Pac-12, and they're kind of stacked.
Agreed. What a shame.
So I think Bama starts rolling. I think last week I think I used they're a talented clusterfuck. They are, except the clusterfuck aspect is now becoming an organized just bulldozer fuck. And that's what you should expect out of a Nick Saban team. I think they're just going to, pun intended, roll. They're just going to start going, and how are you going to stop? And I think that Brock Bowers injury, assuming he doesn't come back, is going to just be too big of a deal.
Yeah, if he doesn't, if he doesn't come back, I'll be curious to see how they compensate for that, because he's such an integral part. His usage is off the charts. Yeah, so that'll be.
I don't know why, but I don't know why, but in my mind, I was just when you were talking stuff, I'm just picturing they play those old Pokemon games, clusterfuck is evolving, and it's organized bulldozer fuck,
organized fuck. If we think about without Brock Bowers, we're talking about a Georgia team with 1 loss more than likely. With the Auburn stuff, so I think it's such a big deal. And I don't know that there's somebody they can put in at that position with that offense. Remember, Todd Monken is in Baltimore now. This is a new offense. This is not they were holding on by a thread. That can be enough for this, not to say fall down, because Georgia's still going to be a really good team, but we've seen them struggle offensively. We saw them struggle offensively against Vanderbilt.
Not good.
It's true. All right. Looking back real quick, week 8 from the models predictions here. Officially, I mean, technically 4 and 6 here, but Seth, give me your rundown of what happened here, because again, there were some I don't know, all the opening spreads, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you're off the top of your head, are those the numbers that we got exactly?
No, not necessarily. These are definitely different. They don't reflect exactly the value, because some of these numbers don't meet 2%. No, and there is an error on it. Auburn lost. It went 4 and 6. Kentucky and Auburn both sold us. We were in both those games. Variance is happening, but we saw closing line value. Ironically, though, in Tennessee, we saw closing line value up until Thursday, maybe Friday, and then late money came in and moved that number back up. So interesting there. I don't know. I mean, we were in all of these games. Cincinnati ended up selling us. Yeah. They were down 29-10 or something like that. They came back. They ended up losing by 1 or 2 or something like that. We could have easily covered. Auburn turned it over in the red zone. We could have easily covered that game. And obviously Tennessee, they were up 20-9 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, variance here. And then the games we were right on, LSU. I think what they were 62-0. I think we got we got a 29.5. We were on Michigan. That was not a sweat at all. Eastern Michigan, we were a little bit worried, but they did their thing.
Let me know if this is something you want to comment on, or how deep you want to go into it here now. But one thing we were talking about, and maybe something we might do a little bit of, I guess, cherry on top handicapping after the model's output comes out each week is the potential blind spot. Maybe there's a better word for it, Seth, with respect to some of these smaller schools and the output and the EV that we see in the smaller schools.
Yeah, 100%. It's becoming apparent to us, it's becoming apparent that, and this is my theory, and I don't exactly know. I'm still trying to tease this out, but this is where I think it comes from. There is a divide between the Power 5 and everything else in the FBS. And unfortunately, in order to get the Power 5 forecasts correct, you need to be using a talent metric. We use blue chip ratio and one other thing. But the problem with that is a blue chip ratio means nothing in these non-Power 5 conferences because none of the teams have quote unquote 4 and 5 star talent. They have talent, obviously, and talent is not evenly distributed amongst those schools. But because they come and they all show up as 0% blue chip ratio, I think that's where the bias is coming from. And so it's discrediting teams that shouldn't be discredited, and it's giving too much credit to teams that probably should be discredited because of that talent factor. And there's no great way there's some ways you can handle it, but quite frankly, they come down to like parsing out two different models, basically a Power 5 model and a not Power 5 FBS model. So I think that's definitely something definitely something I am exploring, and like, is something apparent. And like, also there's kind of rule of thumbs that like I've been sticking by. I think the other thing to do a model can't know is there's like some real legitimate sinking ships. Like Kent State is one of those. Like this team literally had to start over. It's not an exaggeration. People are clapping for Colorado. I mean, Kent State's not even on the radar. I mean, this is, from my understanding, Kent State brought back like 2 or 3 players, like total. The coach let like every single person left. So that is like an auto fade. So our model may like their numbers, but like it doesn't know that there's legitimate turmoil going on. And then there's also like just some of these really bad teams, they can hang on for a half, but then they just make mistakes. I mean, we bet on Kent State 2 weeks ago. I'm not exaggerating. The first play, and I'm not mean the first play from scrimmage, the kickoff was an onside kick, returned for a touchdown because they didn't tackle. I mean, you can't forecast, or if you can, but you need to know a lot of really, really specific things about a team. We don't know that Kent State's clearly trying to win that game, but they don't have the talent. Like they are still in rebuild mode. This is like a high school team trying to play college football, basically. So it's just stuff like that. Times. But if you really break it down, our power, if you just look at our Power 5 performance, we're doing really well. Our model's calling, not necessarily money line matchups, but probabilistic. If you were to convert the spread to a money line, it'll be EV to bet the money line, just because of the probability of covering is attached to the probability of winning. But like, it's doing a really good job at calling. We had Louisville, we had Illinois. We've been on the right side of these things, and then on the blowouts, we've been on the right side of most of those. So it's definitely doing a good job there. It's just, how do we further tweak it to kind of, technically we're sitting almost right at break even. I think our model is right at 52.3% right now. So it's literally, we've bet like almost 90 games. So I mean, we're getting the volume down, and we're almost right at break even. So we've had a 9-0 week, right? Like we're only 1 or 2 like profitable weeks for the season, and then we end profitable. Now that can go the other way too. But yeah, overall, I think the model is performing quite well. It's just, how do you optimize to make it a little bit better?
Yeah, 100%. Not a finished project yet, for sure.
No,
but good progress. All right, how about look ahead a little bit here? We got a couple of matchups. Let's talk about. So, Steve, I don't know if there is an official name for this matchup, like the Red River Shootout or whatever. The Florida Georgia line is what came to my mind, but that's a band apparently. So
yeah, I think it's like tied to this. I mean, they play it in Jacksonville every year. It's always the weekend of Halloween. Like, this is some real shit. Like, you ask anybody, I lived in Georgia for a year. Like, this is like, it's like Christmas, and then it's Georgia, Florida.
Yeah. And I did see that it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't been, but I want to go. That's all I know.
I'll say that sounds like a mark your calendars type of thing for next year. type of
Yeah,
situation.
they do it every Halloween weekend.
Yeah. So okay, so let's break down this matchup though here real quick. So our the model number puts it at 15 in favor of Georgia here. Market opened at 14. I don't know if you checked if that screen grab is right before this recording.
Yeah, this is right before. This is right before
okay.
we went on.
Okay. All right. So not a model play, no alpha on either side of this right now. But what sticks out to you, Seth? What are some of the factors you think playing into the output, and what should we look forward to?
Yeah,
in this
I mean,
matchup?
this is interesting to see Pinnacle at 14, and I'm not surprised. Somebody buying up that 14 and a half, like getting it down from a 3 possession to a 2 possession, I think is a pretty big deal. You can see it for our model. We're putting it at that awkward number of 15, so it's really not going to see value until you get starting to get below like the 13s. I would really love to back Georgia here if I knew Brock Bowers is healthy. Like I think that that's such a huge part of their offense. And on top of that, this is a team that we haven't seen since Brock Bowers went down. They had a bye last week, and so we don't actually know very much about what Georgia is going to look like. Now, Florida isn't the craziest team this year, but their talent is insane. Their blue chip ratio is almost just as high as Georgia. They got athletes out there, and I think that this, when we were talking about Georgia slipping, could this be the game? And this you have the rivalry aspect of this. This is a big game. Like, you don't have your biggest offensive piece. Are these like, is this where we see Georgia finally slip?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you there. For me, it's the Brock Bowers question is obviously the top of my mind here, right? I think even without him, Georgia is still the better team. But are they 14 points better, 15 points better? That I have a hard time believing. And believe me, if there's anyone who is the world's biggest hater, like I've left the Carson Wentz hate club and I've joined the Graham Mertz hate club. Right. So there's anyone who's a hater, it's me. But even still, I think to your point, stuff, there's just enough here where you can have some chaos. I think for me, what it comes down to is, can Georgia's defense stand up, right? You look at the defensive EPA per play, and that's really where Georgia shines. But if we're all saying, hey, Brock Bowers is this big important piece of Georgia's offense, what do we see that? How do we see that translate on an EPA per play, right? Because they're not totally that far. Is Brock Bowers worth 0.05 EPA per play on average? I don't know those numbers, right? But you expect those numbers theoretically to take a dip on this per play thing. And then you look to your point, Seth, you talk about the blue chip ratio. They've got athletes. They've got athletes. Can they make some explosive plays? And that's where, they're pretty much the same as Georgia, right? And then the defensive side is going to be, the kind of the big difference. But if you're saying Bowers is out, how much of that are you really being exposed? So I think you have these two teams who are not leagues apart, certainly, better than Vandy was. And I think you have a game here that I at 15, I would be very tempted, gun to my head, I would have to choose Florida.
Yeah. And I think the thing here to your Graham Mertz hating club, right, is offensive success rate on obvious passing downs, 35% for your boy at Mertz. So I mean, the data kind of backs up this guy is not he's not breaking any records, or if he is, it's probably in the wrong direction that he'd break a record. I don't know. This is a team that I just haven't had a chance to watch very much. Obviously, the first game of the season sticks out, but we've come a long way since then. I'm trying to think what are signature wins? Did they beat South Carolina?
Yeah.
They beat Tennessee. So they've beat teams. They got beat up by Kentucky.
Lost to Duke. Or
they
sorry,
did.
Kentucky. Sorry.
Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah. It's been a team this isn't a home or away game. I guess technically it's somebody's home and away game, but obviously it's maybe a little bit closer to Florida than Georgia. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can see we quantify, like you were saying, what could put the number, the number doesn't feel like it's 15. I agree, it doesn't feel that way, but analytically it's spot on,
right?
And so it's just for me, there's just I can't come up with even an ego reason to take this bet, to bet any side here. You'd literally have to put a gun to my head to bet this. I'm forced to, like you said, bet a horrible quarterback in Graham Mertz or an unknown with Georgia's offense, especially coming off of that Vandy game with no Bowers. Now you could divide this in two thoughts in my mind. You have an extra week to prepare, so that's good for not having Brock Bowers, but you still don't have Brock Bowers. So like, yeah, you have an extra week, but like, do you have the Superman that you can put in there?
Yeah.
Because if not, well, it doesn't matter if you have an extra week.
Yeah.
That's where I find myself in this game. Like, it's just not appealing. Like, well, I remember like last year where you're just like, Georgia's going to kill Florida. I don't feel that way here.
Yeah.
And we're talking with Ed Miller, on our Odds on Insight podcast, which you should check that video out.
Yeah.
It's on our page as well. But yeah, he mentioned in there, and this was after the conversation, so it's actually not part of the video. But adding in, he adds in uncertainty variables into his models, which was a fascinating insight there. Which this game seems like it would be the prime candidate for cranking that uncertainty variable up to the nth degree for sure. So
yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, let's head on down the road then to the next matchup, Oklahoma and Kansas here. So another interesting one. Again, a little bit of recency bias with respect to Oklahoma. Didn't look great against UCF, and then Kansas. Were they idle last week, or were they? Who did
They were
play?
idle last week, but they lost to Oklahoma State the week before.
Yeah. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, Oklahoma State. So model number puts this at 12, and it opened up at 10 here. So not a model play again for us here, but something, a couple of things I think might be interesting to break down or discuss a little more in depth. So Kansas, how many games have they not had their starting quarterback?
Damn, the whole season. I think he may have played one game.
Right.
He might be right for this game. Is that what you
No. He played one game. I think he played week 1 or 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken. And then he's been out. So he he didn't play week 1. I think he played maybe week 2 or 3, and then he's been out ever since. So no, I don't believe he's playing in this game.
He's not. Okay. So this is another one we talked about at the beginning with blue chip ratio on, even though this is a Power 5 school, right? Kansas not being a quote unquote talented team relative to anybody, frankly. I mean, Oklahoma on the flip side sitting at almost 60% blue chip ratio. So how do correct me tell me if I'm wrong here, but I could see Kansas going tit for tat for a little bit with Oklahoma in terms of offensive firepower. They both, Kansas is actually very efficient, more so than more efficient than
this is Oklahoma is one of the most potent offenses in college.
Yeah, but are they? Flip side, defensive side of the ball. Pretty staunch difference as well. So does Kansas have a shot here? This feels like. I feel a little bit on the opposite side, like you did against the Georgia game. I feel like 2 game spread here, or two score spread, excuse me.
Yeah,
is makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. Why do you build a model? Because my dumb brain can't escape the dumb brain thoughts it has. My dumb brain wants to be like, well, UCF played them really well. They have a blue chip ratio of 0. They have a really good offense. Why shouldn't I be fucking jumping joy that I get 10, all day? And that's what my brain wants to think. Obviously, it's not that simple. There's a reason Oklahoma struggled last week. I don't, know exactly how to pinpoint that from a matchup standpoint, but it could have just been a bad game for Oklahoma. That's very plausible, right? So I want to love Oklahoma, or I want to love Kansas here. I want to believe that it's just so easy that their potent offense could just run up and down the field. But they played Texas is a really potent offense. There's plenty of other teams that had potent offenses that didn't have as much success as UCF last week. And so as much as I want to connect those dots, I'm refraining. Now, that being said, you can see that this is at 10 at Pinnacle and Circa, but at Chris or Bookmaker, they have it at 9.5. Some smart people or person is saying, no, 10 is too many. Thank you very much. I'll take that. And in college, 10 is actually a key number. So I don't really know what to make of this game. I've got futures on both these teams. So I'm hoping one of them wins handedly. If I can get a Kansas win here, that's huge for my plus 5,000 ticket. If I can get a huge blowout for Oklahoma, that's huge for my playoff ticket for Oklahoma. So I'm kind of in the driver's seat from there, and I think that's how I'm going to play this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you, Seth. I think to me, this is an overreaction game to last week, right? We saw UCF struggle, or excuse me, we saw Oklahoma struggle with UCF.
Yeah.
Came back and won by 2, but it wasn't pretty, and really that defense was the issue. The offense, for the most part, I mean, they had some untimely plays. Don't get me wrong, but the offense put up 31 points. They did their job, right? And so you look at this Kansas team here, and yes, their offense is great. Even with their backup quarterback, Jason Bean being in, they really haven't missed much of a beat. But this is the same Kansas team in my mind that just gets beat up by really good teams. I think we saw that. And that was a 40-14 loss to Texas a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago. So, like,
They were in it. They were in it. They were in it
until
in
they
the
weren't.
first half.
Yeah,
Yeah, until
no,
they
agree.
weren't. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's what you see here again, right? I think this is Oklahoma. I guess for me, like, I always go back and I always say this. Are they the team, or is this team the team we think they are? Right? When are we going to believe who they are is what they really are? And I believe that Oklahoma is a really good defensive 0.09 EPA per play team. I think they have a great defense and they had a bad game. And I think you see Kansas test that theory for sure. But to me, Oklahoma is just too much firepower, too good on the defensive side of the ball. And I think they're going to prevail here. That's my personal take.
All right. Are you so you're going to bet Oklahoma then?
Yeah, I'm looking at that 9.5 right now. I mean, I feel comfortable at 10, but I'll check right now. If it's 9.5, I'm going to pull Oklahoma.
Okay.
I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I'm gonna explore the under team total for Kansas to piggyback off of Steve's point. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, on the whole, in the aggregate, they are above average defense and had a bad week, maybe more so than anything. And yeah, Kansas coming off a bye, like, the potent offense, etc. But
that was a 17-point spread of a way less efficient offense.
I know.
But
like
I tend to agree with you guys here. I mean, more talented team, whatever that matchup was that they can obviously learn from that, like the mistakes they made. I think the other thing too is Oklahoma lost one of their best wide receivers in that Texas game. How big of a deal is that? Obviously, with one game, it's tough to measure that kind of stuff. But is that some of the cause of their offensive concerns? Obviously, they struggled defensively. I mean, they gave up some huge explosive touchdowns. But ultimately, it was the defense that kind of got it together and won them that game, honestly. So yeah,
Right.
I don't think it's crazy. I'm staying away.
Yeah.
I'll say it over and over. You build a model, believe it. There's no value here on the spread, in my opinion. And I already got futures on both these teams. I might as well just sit back and enjoy my time.
Yeah. Now we do talk about this, right? Because Seth, you always talk about, we hear we beat opening spreads, right? Beating closing spreads is a completely different game. And at what point throughout the week, with this being Wednesday, what point do you start to shift from opening spread to closing spread? And there's nuance in any answer, right? Because we don't have all the information.
Sure. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Tuesday is when I after Tuesday I go, anything that happens is because I don't know it. I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Meaning I just the market at that point beats me more than I beat it.
Sure.
And any move, like for instance, like we saw early to late money agree with us in every single game last week. Every single game. Late money disagreed with us on a couple of games, and guess who was right? They were right. Oklahoma struggled. Alabama struggled, but they ended up covering. Like the ones that moved in our direction for a while. I mean, Tennessee got down to 7, and then it went all the way back up to 9.5. So I think Tuesday for me is that cutoff where it's just at that point there's just so much more information and angles in the market and baked into that number than I can contribute to, because now what I'm comparing my model to is not only whatever angles were in there at open, but everybody's injury information, everybody's better model than mine, everybody's payroll that they play, they pay all the players, so they get a call every Monday that says like, yeah, this dude's ankle is busted as hell. Like, I can't compete with any of that, right?
Yeah. So you're saying there's no way I could tempt you with an Oklahoma -9 line on this game?
Oh, you could tempt me. Oh yeah. I could get. I didn't get a chance to tell you guys. I had a good old fashioned degenerate, like good old gambling situation this last weekend. I get to share with you guys. Okay, so I went to a wedding. And we're at the wedding. It was a Friday wedding. So we were hanging out and I was talking to some people and people were we were the night before, we were all drinking and blah, 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 and somebody was asking, somebody brought up sports betting. And so I was like, oh, let me tell you everything that you don't want to know about sports betting. And so then the next day he's like, hey, like we got to get, he's like, I only bet in community, like with community. Like I only do it in like where there's multiple people, like we got to get something going. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And he was from Washington, and he's a big baseball guy. And he's like, yeah, man, the Phillies, like they steal all of our players. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Let's make the fuck Philly parlay. Temple was playing SMU and Phillies were playing the Diamondbacks. Like, let's make the fuck Philly parlay. So we took SMU on the spread, and we took the Diamondbacks to win the game. And what do you know? Phillies lost. Fucking Temple lost, I think 55-0.
Let's go.
The fuck Philly parlay was profitable, baby. And that's some good old degenerate fun. I had no value on either of those games. I literally couldn't have bet that Temple game like closer to closing. Like literally, I bet it like 10 minutes before kickoff. I mean, no, I can get down with some good degenerate shit. It's just, come all the other days. I'm trying to be a professional out here.
Yeah, that's fair. I respect that.
Well, so far we have yet to have a professional angle on any of these games that we're looking at here. But nonetheless, we got to talk about them. Oregon and Utah, another matchup of top 25 teams. So, Seth, you called it earlier. You said it. You had Oregon in your college championship Final Four here. So
and the market.
So I mean, I know there's no value on Oregon, but you like them. This is a good spot.
But to use the market, right? Like this is a great example. The market is telling us they have more information than we do. Our model puts this number at 4. This market has bought this number to 6.5. The market is buying up Oregon, and that's a signal within itself, right? You may have heard of a phrase, chasing steam. This is chasing steam. This is looking at what's going on at the market maker. What is happening there as far as where they're moving the money, where the spread is moving to, and that's being influenced by a group of sharp sports bettors betting a team in one direction, right? In this case, it's betting Oregon. Now we're at Wednesday, so there's still time to go. Some deeper money or smarter money can come in and move this the other direction. But if right as we're saying right now, I mean, the market is saying Oregon, and is that crazy? I mean, obviously Utah is going to feel hype. They're going to feel sexy, but like this is a team without their starting quarterback. Yeah, they beat USC, but this is a USC team that we're low on. So why all of a sudden now would I change course? For me, it's not that. And I think Oregon's hyper aware that they cannot fuck up. They not only they know it, then they saw USC do it. They know they can't take this team for granted. Like they can't look past this team. They have to handle business. So I think for me, this is a game like where I would even consider betting it under 7. Like I think Oregon wins by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, 100%. I wonder if this is an overreaction the opposite way, right? So Utah is beating USC, and that's an upset based off their rankings and whatnot. But it's just a USC who has problems on the defensive side that made Utah look better than they really are. I mean, we've seen this Utah team fall from grace in terms of their rankings, and yeah, they didn't have Cam Rising, and sure you can say as he goes, the team goes, and that's totally fair. But the reality is, who's suiting up on Saturday? It's not going to be him. It's going to be that same predictable Utah offense minus last week. And we saw what Oregon did to Colorado, right? Like we saw what this defense can do when they're clicking on all cylinders. And really on both sides of the ball can beat down a team. And I really expect more of the same. I'm shocked at -4. I agree with -6.5. And I'm with you. I would really like to get it before it crosses 7 because that to me, I can see them easily covering a 1-point game.
Yeah. The for Utah specifically, like their venue is a tough place to go into and put up a lot of points. Like they have a pretty they have a solid home environment, and that defense, I mean, has really held some. Giving up 32 to USC, not great per se, but look across the board here at the defensive metrics, very impressive. I mean, holding UCLA earlier in the season to 7 points. That's also pretty impressive. Oregon State, I know they lost that game, giving up 21. So that was their one. That was a weird game. I don't even remember that game, frankly. But
this was
bottom line for me.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, but bottom line for me is I don't know. I think Oregon might unexpectedly run into a defense that they've yet to come across, and I think they're going to struggle.
How can that be unexpected though? How can it be unexpected after?
Well, maybe that's the wrong word.
Took down USC.
Right, unexpected is the wrong word. They know Utah's a good defense, but the caliber of defense that Utah has is unlike any of the other teams that they've faced. Washington, close second, maybe perhaps, or the closest.
Yeah,
but beyond that, yeah, I think I think Utah is might surprise some people, but would not be surprised if this comes down to a fourth quarter sort of Oregon, touchdown drive and covers a 6 or 7. But beyond that, I think I think Utah sticks with it.
I mean, can I just do some dumb math real quick here? Right. I know this is a real oversimplification, but I look at this matchup and I look at Utah's offense versus Oregon's defense, right? And let's call it that it's pretty much the same on an EPA per play, what Utah's producing and what Oregon's allowing, right? And then I switch that over and I look at the defensive EPA per play. And yet, yes, Utah is a stout defense, no doubt about it. But to flip your point, Kev, I don't think Utah's faced an offense like Oregon's bringing. Like you can make the defensive point. I think that's fair, but it works the other way around. And if I'm Oregon, obviously I'm showing up for this game, but I'm also looking at what USC did. If USC can put up points against this offense, and yet USC's offense is really good, but if USC can put up points against Utah's defense, I feel pretty damn good about my chances if I'm Oregon.
I mean, Oregon is better on offense. Than
exactly.
SC.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was with you, Kevin. I think I made a similar argument week 2 or 3 when it was that game. It was Utah, Ohio State or Oregon State, and I was like, don't count out this defensive matchups. I think what it comes down to is they can't. This Utah team is a little bit different than past because they can't score. Typically, they did against USC. They can't score enough to keep pace, and that just ends up breaking their back later in the game. And I don't know. I think Oregon just doesn't slip here.
Yeah, the market obviously disagrees with me, so I could be dumb. So
yeah, but I mean, but to your point though, unless it crosses that 7, it's not crazy what you're saying. Yeah. The market is saying, this is going to be a 1 possession game. 1 possession game in college is literally a coin flip.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. I don't know if this is a night game or not. Pac-12 after dark, maybe.
I'm not sure. Hopefully, it's on the Pac-12 channel. So we can watch. So we can all watch it.
Shout out 12:30. Okay. Okay.
What time is it on?
It's midday game, so 12:30. So 3:30 your time.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Right on the Pac-12 network.
It's on. No, man. Shout out. It's on Fox, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Fox. Let's go. All right, let's look ahead though to week 9 output for the model here. So similar to how week 8 there were some caveats. If you guys caught it, we went live again on YouTube, knocking the openers Sunday afternoon, getting a lot of these lines locked in and stuff here. So obviously you'll notice that the card here only shows one game technically above 2% EV, but we were able to nail several other ones as the market open and opening lines progress. So Seth, talk us through a couple of those specific examples.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through them all right now. Okay, so we bet James Madison. Shout out all the people JMU. We've been hearing all season. What about JMU? What about JMU? Guess what? The model's on them this week. We bet 16.5. We got Arizona State 6.5. Iowa State plus 2.5. Penn State minus 30.5. University of Louisiana Monroe, we got at a pick'em. Nevada at a pick'em, and I think that's all. That's all of the college games that we bet.
Oh, you're muted, Kev.
Oh, my bad. I was about to keep count, but I did. Is that 7 official?
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6 games. Yeah. Okay. And I double dipped. I double dipped on JMU to all the JMU lovers out there. So I put 2 units on JMU just to show some little love, and I put
seconds.
Units. I went for seconds. I wish I would have done third because that should have moved 4 points already in our direction. And then I did also go ahead and buy up that 30.5 2 units for Penn State.
Is
And
this
that's
just is this let me clarify for the good people out there watching this. Is that just a degen move or what is the motivation behind it?
Kind of degen move. I'm also trying to like where we have a little bit bigger edges to scale up a little bit. So it's a combination of both, and then it's also just a combination of volume versus amount. So like someone who I was sad. I thought I made a really cool comment that would be funny that no one saw, but somebody like commented on our videos like, "Oh, you guys only are betting like $100 a unit." And in college, that's true because we've had cards where we bet like 14 games.
Right.
If my volume is 14 games a week, I'm getting down like 10 almost 10 G's in a very small amount of time, and that's not counting any of the NFL bets, of which we bet a lot more because our edges are a little bit stronger there. So like at any one point in time, I could have like 20 or 30% of my bankroll deployed. That's like, you need to use bankroll management. But they said, "Oh, well, you're older, so I assume you'd be betting more." And I said, "Oh, well, when my Medicaid card comes in next month, I'll be able to bet more." But I don't think anybody saw it. But yeah, so it was just mostly a function of like when we looked at the card, when we first started betting, I mean, we only saw like 3 games, like a value. So it's like, okay, if we're only going to get down 3 games, then I want to bump these numbers up from an amount. And we had a little bit larger edge there. I mean, like Iowa State, I wish I would have bet more. Like we caught that number at 2.5. That thing's now moved to -2.5. Like, I mean, that's technically, that's a lot of movement from a point standpoint. And we've seen CLV on almost every pick we've made throughout the season. Last week was honestly the first week where at closing we saw money come against us. And it was right. Quite frankly, and it was right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning, but there's several. I don't know if JMU would be considered a small school by
JMU is a weird school. Like they're like fixing to be in the top 25.
Oh no, they are in the top 25.
Oh, I think they're number 25 now. But
number one Sun Belt Conference. Sun Belt, what up?
Sun Belt,
shout out, yeah. But same thing with Louisiana Monroe. Is that another?
Yeah, you and then Nevada. Yeah,
Nevada as well.
But
so does that give you any heartburn?
Oh, the whole thing gives me heartburn. No. I mean, at this point, like we're just measuring things.
Yeah,
we're just measuring things. We're seeing enough CLV at this point. We are in like. Almost like I'm infallible to the hate these days, because once you start understanding how markets actually work and you are self-aware and you are being brutally honest with what your process is, seeing CLV at a huge clip for, like, let's be honest. I mean, at least 80% of our picks, we're seeing at least 2.4%, at least, if not more. I mean, like I just said, we saw a 5-point move in the direction of one game, right? But on average, we're seeing CLV. So right now, there's no point we're betting into a 50-50 market. And we do believe we have an edge. You can see we're quantifying. We put a lot of work into doing that. So I'm not really too worried about any of it. I just think for me, as I've been trying to pay attention, it's been clear to me that I can call my shot on some of these games where I'm saying there's no way this will cover. The model's wrong. And it's trying to understand that a little bit better. And then also analytically prove to yourself you can do XYZ things so that you can actually analytically show that, yeah, the model is wrong. And so I think we'll get there here, but I don't know. I get to bet with all the JMU fans who come through our lives like on the daily. So that's all I'm repping. I might go to JMU after this.
Well, if they cover, you might, but if they don't,
yeah. No. If JMU does not cover, then I'm going to go back to what it was like 12 months ago when I didn't even know this was a school.
Hey, I will say, the JMU Old Dominion game is on ESPNU. I am making a point. I'm watching that game from kickoff to the last whistle.
Is that a Friday night game, Steve?
I got to log in.
It's a 5 o'clock game on Saturday.
On Saturday, okay.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
Even better. It's in between the 3:30 and the 7:30 games. It just starts at an awkward time for no reason. Love it. If JMU covers, I'm applying for a job as a professor on Monday.
Yeah. Listen, Listen, Duke fans, because they're the JMU Dukes, which I just learned 45 seconds ago. Listen, don't say we don't love you. All right, we do it for the people. We're here for the people. If JMU covers, I'm getting the JMU Dukes tattoo straight in the right ass cheek. Let's go, baby.
Well, one on each
whatever
cheek,
your slogan
JMU
is,
and then Dukes on the other.
Yeah, whatever your slogan is, let's do that.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. All right, boys. What else? Anything else that you got your eye on this weekend, outside of the model, or just storylines? You know, something that you're curious to see plays out.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if Georgia struggles against Florida, because I think that's a really big deal. Really, really, really going to keep my pulse here on the rumor mill around Michigan. I think it's a really, really, really great opportunity. It's going to take a lot of balls, but if you scoop up, like I said, the top 7 teams, you're just going to get an artificial bump in probability that will pay more than it should later down the line. So those are the 2 things that I'm like ear to the streets.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Steve.
I mean, really nothing more other than watching the JMU game. I'm really keeping an eye out. I did take an Oregon for sure, and then I had the other one pulled up, the Oklahoma -9. Let me go ahead and lock that in right now, as a matter of fact, before I forget again.
Yeah, but you're right though. -9 is enticing. Oklahoma -9 is enticing.
Yeah, lock him in pregame, Steve, because you seem to be the live fade god. So I don't, whatever.
No. That's not me. That's not me. It's the money line instead of the spread. That's where I'm over $1 million. Taking teams money line. I'm sorry, taking dogs money line when I should be taking them the spread. That's my weakness.
There you go.
It. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying.
That and the JMU Dukes.
Yeah. All right, boys and girls, that'll do it for us. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to the video. We'll be back next week as always. That's it for this board meeting. See ya.